I don't have much to update you all on this week, which is a good thing. It's the usual.
I texted you the picture.
Okay. Karen said hi. She doesn't have video.
Oh, hi,
Um,
Karen. Well, I'm going to not have video in a second.
okay. Continue doing your great work up there. It's the usual this week. We need desk coverage. We've got most of our restrictions lifted, so and that's pretty good. And most of the volunteers have emailed me or messaged me, which I am not allowed to ask you all if you're vaccinated, which is really, really interesting to me because but HIPAA requirements are such that I'm not allowed to ask you all if you're vaccinated. But you all still send me messages. So I still get emails or I get text messages. Hey, Nikki, I just got my second shot. And I'm like, I don't want, but then it's good. I created a little checklist so that I know the people who are actually volunteering who are a little bit safer now, in my very humble opinion. Me not being the person who works with human bodies, I can only say, in my very humble opinion. So I received a phone call during last week from one of you volunteers, and I was blown away. Yeah, that's the best word to use. I was blown away. Because it was such an affirming phone call. That's what I should say. And it's not that this person doesn't usually come to me and say, hey, you're doing a great job. I'm really happy that you're here. They're always that way. Bless their heart. They're always like that. And that person wouldn't have known that someone else had called me a few weeks ago to tell me that I'm not doing a great job. And now that I'm older, I've decided that I do listen to the criticism because there's something to learn and there are ways to improve. But boy, do I really try to cling on to the raft of the kind words. The things that the words that say, hey, I like what you did. You did a good job, right? Like Susan in her thumbs up right now. So I decided to go out there and take a few pictures and share them with you all. The person called me about the garden in Gifford that I'm always talking about, right? I'm always talking about this garden. And so here's one of the pictures of it that I took. The angles are so strange. They don't really do justice to how it feels when you are out there in the garden. But this is one of our keyhole beds that I was telling you all I was going to install. I remember talking with you all about this project before I'd gotten a chance to really implement it. And I told you all that we were going to be doing keyhole beds and that we were going to have a seating area. And the pergola was going to be repopulated with some vines and whatnot. And I kept on yammering on about this plot and this plan of mine. And I told you all very clearly that I had heard what you said, especially those of you who had been working out there, who said, well, I can't grow corn unless I can do the 4x4 method. So you can do the 4x4 method in these because the smallest width in these beds is 4 feet, okay? And if you divvy them out, you actually have 5 squares of 4x4 because they're 8 feet long and they're 12 feet long at the longest, and the 2 feet are 4. So that's going to work out for anybody wanting to grow even corn. And I put down 1 grit of corn in there just for giggles and kicks, just to try it and see how it would have worked out, because in my imagination it worked, but the practicality, the actual implementation of it would have been a different matter. I knew that we also needed our own potting place. So talking about a potting shed with Lena is not a talking person. Lena is more of a doing person. So Lena got the guy who did her potting shed to come out and do our potting shed. And then it needed a roof. And I met a guy who does roofing. He's a local fellow. He lives there in Gifford. And so after a couple of weeks, his guys came out and put on a roof for us. And it's a lovely roof. Of course, I'm going to be biased and say it's the best roof, right? So there's our new potting shed. That way we can do a lot of our work on site without having to transport a lot of our plants and whatnot. Over there underneath the mango tree, we have is where we have the majority of our shade currently. So of course I put the composting section on the other side of the fence line over there. And we also have shelving and tables underneath there for right now, where when we propagate our plants, we put them over there so that they're out of the harshest portions of the sun. And now you're seeing the picture with 2 more of our keyhole beds. The area is thickly mulched. We have a very, very dense layer of mulch down. And yes, Karen, look at the sunflowers. This garden is a learning tool. Florida-friendly landscaping is all about having a beautiful, sustainable garden. So yes, we've got a bunch of sunflowers in there. We're overseeding most of the beds that we're not going to be using, that we're not going to really be cultivating anything in, with sunflower, zinnia, and marigold seeds. That is what we're cover cropping with this year. I cover crop with that last year, and it worked out very well in my personal garden. And so, and it's what I've been teaching people to use when I teach vegetable gardening. So I decided that, of course, I'm going to walk that walk if I'm talking that talk. That's what this is for, right? This is to show people that these are our brilliant ideas, and they're completely practical, and implementation is not difficult. So we've got our raised beds. These large pots, things appear in my yard. So these 24-inch across pots were in my yard. I'm suspicious that it was my oldest son who'd done something for someone else, and he came home with the pots, or however he got them, and put them in the front yard. So I just collected them one of the days when I was gathering things from my yard for this gardening here. And I put them on the back of the truck, and we fill them up maybe half the way with mulch and the rest of the way with soil, right? The mulch is free, the cardboard was free. It just took us time to obtain them. So we fill them up, and so we put an eggplant, some basil, a couple of zinnia seeds, and a sunflower seed in there, just to show people that you can grow the pretty things, you can grow the delicious things, and they don't have to be exclusive. And so those are those large pots, and we've got a few more large pots that I'm going to collect in a few days that are being donated. Yay for Facebook. I also put up a post on Facebook because these beds, these raised beds, cost like $100-something in materials each. And I didn't want to deplete the actual budget, such as it is that I have for the garden, on just renovating, right? So I put up a post on Facebook, and people from Texas, Cayman, New York, a tenured professor at Columbia, actually, just amazing people from, and I got like a $25 donation from a friend of mine in Japan. So People from all over the place donated money, and I went immediately and got the materials. And then my brilliant idea for them being 4 wide, I forgot to give for the blocks. And so Mort came to the rescue with his cordless saw and cut them down to size so that we're back to our 4 foot, including the block space. Bless his heart. And we filled them a few inches in with mulch as well, and then we covered it up with the soil. The county gave me a few guys to come out and run soil into them for me, and that was great. You would think that they weren't filled all the way up to the top if you weren't plant people, and you all know that soil settles. The bystander would be like, well, what happened to the soil? Well, eventually it got wet and some of that airspace that was created compacted on down. So that's what happened with the soil that was all the way up to the top originally, which we don't mind because every time we add plants, we add a wee bit of soil in with them. So over time, it will completely fill out. But for now, we do have a depth of the soil that is going to accommodate all that we're growing properly. I think those are 12s, but my brain is really saying that they're 10 inches at the widest. They're 10 inches deep. I knew that I needed at least 8 inches of soil depth for us to grow carrots eventually. We're not going to grow carrots right now that I know of. I'll have to talk about that a little bit with Lena. But yeah, we've got our sunflowers and zinnias and
Nikki.
yes, Nancy.
I grew carrots one time, and underneath the dirt there was like rock. And so the carrots did not grow down, they got fat.
Yes. So
They
that's the
funny.
same thing that I'm thinking. The mulch is going to annoy the carrots a little bit. So but I'll talk with Lena about it. We've got a lot of other spaces that we can do carrots in. Nancy, yes, I will take potting soil. That would be great. So yeah, we're doing all sorts of things. We've had a lot of community engagement. So far, so good. One of them is actually in the Master Gardener program right now. That's Vincent, big fella, lovely, lovely human being. And he was a little curious, and he thought I was a bit touched in the brain, honestly, when when he first stopped to chit chat with me. He was like, so what are you up to? And I said, well, I'm renovating this garden. And but the more time he has spent with Lena and me and other people out there in the garden, he's getting the idea, that this thick layer of mulch and the cardboard that I have on top of it is just to give us a good head start. It's not going to completely eliminate the weeds. It is going to give us a good head start. Wow, wrong thing. Okay, so that's another picture from another angle. Hold on, you all. Okay, that's where we've got okra seedlings coming up. This is the bed that I think we're going to keep in crop this year. So we've got okra seedlings coming up. There in the back is my corn that I just Hail Mary with. We've got cowpeas in here, which are black-eyed peas. So those are supposed to do well throughout the summer. So this is the bed that we're really keeping in cultivation throughout the summer so that people can see it and be like, hey, that looks like something I can actually do. All right. Mort is the one who showed me that putting down these garden post spikes, pounding them into the ground, will keep the lumber from warping out. I didn't know. So mine at home, I'm going to work on removing some of the soil and put some of those in and push my pieces of lumber back into place. You all teach me so much that I would not have known had I not been around you all. Here's an example of what we're doing at the fence line. And yes, that is a watermelon. beautiful little sugar baby watermelon. And these are large pots that I got from my friend Bear. He lives in Melbourne, and I basically go shopping in his yard. So those of you whose yards I've been shopping in, don't think you're the only person who have been shopping in your yard. I go shopping in a lot of people's yards. So Bear gave me these very large pots. And so during a previous meeting, I told you all that I was soliciting plants and other things for the edges of the garden, right? Because I told you all my summation of our problem out at the Gifford Garden came down to not being in constant cultivation. So we put it to bed every summer. And then we had to go back out there to a weed bank, right? That was one thing. And then the other thing was that the weed bank was being supplemented by the weeds getting caught into the fence that can't be managed well. So what I decided was we're keeping it in cultivation year round. And to manage that fence line, I needed to get up under it and create a buffer. Well, if I just did a little bit of cardboard right under the fence and then mulched it, we wouldn't be any better off than we were before, to be honest. So going a few feet out, how is that going to make any sense? What are we going to do with those feet except for just pull weeds out of it? So I said, no, make it 6 feet wide so that we can do examples of hedge configurations. So this is a way to use this doubled up. So we're going to be using it to show people ideas of how to create diverse hedges, plants that they might have seen or haven't seen before that are available easily. And then besides that, ways that you can grow things within your hedges. So these are for like the people who come out from the HOAs that are around the place. When they see that we just put pots in there and that we're growing different things, I can't wait for fall when we put some cabbages out there into the fence line proper. That's one of my biggest, like, I can't wait to do that. That's going to be a lot of fun because it's going to give people who live in homeowners associations some ideas. And then there is one part of the hedge where I'm not going to be growing the edibles, but the butterfly garden portion of it, that I'm just going to be like, okay, so these are your big hedge plants, but what are you doing with the soil underneath? And so I'm going to put some small plants in there as well so that people can say, oh, so I can do things to fill in that gap, right? That are super beneficial and whatnot. So yes, it's going to add curb appeal. It's going to look good to my eyes, but it is also going to enhance what I'm providing for wildlife. So yes, this great big learning tool of ours is coming into shape, and we're getting there. We really, really are. So this is a pot with basil and tomato in it. And that's another one with tomato, and I think it had a bell pepper plant in there, if I'm not mistaken. So we're showing interplantings. We're showing family plots as well. Oh, that was the thing that I needed to show you all with the raised beds. All right, so in this bed, we had beans in there, all sorts of beans. We had bush beans, we had string beans that were bushy, and we've got the cowpeas in there. And so to do this in the summertime, we're just doing the okra and the corn because they don't really leave a signature for you to have to rotate out for cover cropping. But this bed here had, so those sunflowers in there are more mature than the other sunflower seeds and stuff that we put in there before, because I was using those for the cucumbers. So we had this bed filled with things in the cucumber family. All right, so we've been using our beds according to families so that we can show examples of crop rotation as well and cover cropping. All right, so those two beds that were originally used, so the one in the back was our tomato and lettuce family. and cabbage family, those are all going to get cover cropped in the summertime. We're not trying to grow any more tomatoes, or we're not putting beans in there or anything like that, or whatever was supposed to be rotated in afterwards. We are cover cropping them with our zinnias, marigolds, and sunflowers, so that we can use that as an example of saying, hey, it's great to have your pollinators in your land, in your yard, when you're doing your vegetable gardening, but what happens in the summertime when you're not actively doing that? How are you keeping your pollinators in your landscape so that when you need them again, you can access them, right? So that's what we're doing with those 2 large beds. We're just going to cover crop them with flowering things that our pollinators are going to really appreciate. They're going to be like, oh yeah. So they're not growing tomatoes anymore, but we're still going to be able to hang out here. Okay. And I think that that is important. And when we did have tomatoes in there, we had zinnias, so that people can see examples of, yeah, tomato plants aren't very showy. They don't have very, very pretty bright flowers, but the flowers that we're using for us to be able to look at it and say, oh, that's really pretty, they're serving double duty, right? They're doing double duty by attracting the pollinators to your plants. So we're really, really using as much of this space as possible to show people best management practices and whatnot. This is my homage to what John had originally had there, the little pond. So I went and I got a proper pond liner instead of using the flexible plastic to create my hole, because you all know I'm not creative. I'm very practical. It's going to end up being lovely to look at, but creativity, that boat missed me. Like, I was at the airport when that boat came in, so I'm not the person. So, but I did like the fact that we had pineapples. It's a really great way to share the history of our county with our students. And when I say our students, I'm not limiting us to only youth clientele, right? This is truly going to be a working garden, and we're going to be doing a lot of different classes out there. So 1 month we might have our vegetable gardening class right out there, and we'll be doing small pots for people and different things like that. So please remember this when I start to solicit you all for like Speakers Bureau and different things like that. We're going to be using the garden in Gifford for more than the most recent use of just for the students on Friday afternoons. We're definitely going to be using it for a lot more than that. So going back to this picture here, this is going to be paved. This is going to be seating area. I've gone and I've gotten tables and chairs and different things like that, and they're already out there. So when these pavers get put down, we're going to have a proper seating area. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to go ahead and buy the little triangle thing that would shade it, or if I'm going to send out a solicitation email for that as well. I'm going to head on out there in another few days as well and spray this down with Simple Green now that we've gotten that whole work shed and everything all sorted out. I'll spray it down with some Simple Green and get it nice and clean looking for us out there. And you can see now that Vincent finished putting up the scallop edging blocks around the pond area, so that it's completed. And he filled in most of it with soil. I have to go get some more soil. I don't know if I'm gonna send out an email to ask for more or what it is I'm gonna do yet, but I will figure that out in another few days. But yeah, by the time that we get into like the hotter days in summer, we're going to have all of these tomatoes and the lettuces and everything culled, and our seeds with our zinnias and our sunflowers and marigolds are going to be coming up, and we're just going to cover crop that space for the summertime. But it's not going to be left for something to show up and do its thing, right? If you look really, really well in this picture, if you're really super critical, down here, you'll see where the sedge has already started to break through. I normally, when I go over there, I pull it up. I know that we're going to get some sort of herbicide for it and spray some of the areas where there's just a bigger population of it than we want to be down there on our hands and knees pulling it up. This is a sustainable garden, folks. This is not someone's imaginary garden where we don't use anything other than our human labor and our willpower, right? That's not what we're doing in this garden. We are using the most sustainable methods to maintain that space possible. There was something else that I needed to tell you all, and I can't remember what it is right now. But when I do, I will. Oh, we got drip lines in so that we can show people something other than me squatting down and watering the roots of the plants. No, man, because, you know, overhead watering for most of these things is just not the very best for them. You see that little kiddie pool back there? I'm going to eventually fill that up with some soil and grow some things in it, but I have a plan to go out there with my cooler and have my lemonade and stick my feet in the water, but I'm waiting for a super hot day to go sit down under the mango tree and do that. So that's what I got the little kiddie pool for. I saw it on the side of the road when I was driving down, but I had a table and 4 chairs on the back of the truck already, but it was in Sebastian. So I called Mort and asked him to go and get it from off the junk pile for me. So he went and got it, and then I rescued it from his house. I've got coral honeysuckle vine already for the pergola, and I'm going to reach out to a couple of people who I know or who I believe still has some native passion vine and see if I can get a couple of them for that pergola so that it can be basically the same configuration that John had out there before, where, you know, we had the vines up and doing great things. So that's basically it for my virtual tour of the Gifford Garden. Please do have a visit out there. Maybe it'll inspire you to go do something out there. If you want your own bed, just let me know. I have not put any other beds out there, but we do have space for it. I do have it sketched in on my little notepad that we can have more beds. I just chose not to put more beds than my current labor force can manage because, again, we want this to be sustainable, right? And being sustainable can mean being small. There is no rule that says I must use every square foot of this garden and I must have 45 beds in there all at once in constant cultivation. That is not sustainable if I cannot do it without having nightmares at night. So that's not what we're doing. And a lot of the pots have different things in them as well. So even if you just want to come out and do some gardening in a pot, that's fine. We have pots and these things will be pulled out. Most of them will be pulled out by the middle of June so that we'll cover it up with something else. We can do the whole entire area in flower seeds and whatnot. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that we don't leave that soil and give the plants that we don't desire an opportunity to creep in. That's the main thing, okay? Those are the things that we're considering when we make the decisions on how we are managing the garden space. So for right now, Lena is working with Vincent. I told you all that Vincent is in our current Master Gardener class. And then there is Lois, and then there is Miss Judy that comes out as well. Those two ladies normally walk the walking path. And so curiosity got the best of both of them. And so they came up, which I think is hilarious because you see this little paper, this little white thing, that's actually my flyer attached to the gate onto the fence. And it really legitimately says how to contact me if you want to be in on this project. And I've come to realize, and I've come to find out that people don't pay that any attention. So that's not going to be my way of advertising from now on. I think 2 people told me that it was not colorful and it was not big. So I'm taking the criticism and going with it. So I'm going to use bigger signage to advertise any of the things that we're doing out there in future. So yes, our garden looks significantly different from what it was set up as originally. I do hope that those of you who spent many years out there working in it will feel the way that the person who called me felt when they said that they're proud of it, that they know that when I post on Facebook and say this is my labor of love, that it really is. And that when you go out there, or when you just see the pictures that we share, you know, whatever it is that we're doing, whatever is connected to this space, that you all will understand that this is truly a gesture that is not empty. By no means is it empty. This has been a lot of hard work. And then there is more to come, that there is more to go. But I want you all to understand that this isn't simply for the people in this neighborhood. This is for the people who have worked very, very hard and dedicated many, many years to a beautiful idea that was so unsustainable. Like you all pulled off miracles out there every single year when you resurrected this garden for the school year. You know, I want you all to understand that this is dedicated to all of you who are out there getting sunburned and bitten up by mosquitoes and fire ants, right? Because it's a whole entire fire ant hill. And lugging water because water got turned off again. And for John, who spent 30 hours a week, sometimes more, sometimes maybe 29, right? A week out there because he wanted to give the students something they could be proud of. And the science, man, when you look at his curriculum, the heavy technical work that he did out there with our students. So when I put the sundial back in, and when I set back up our weather station, and I'm going to put a solar panel onto this side of the shed if I can get it done correctly, right? So that we have all of that heavy science and tech back out there. And I'm saving money in my budget for our STEM activities so that it'll be for our STEM projects, right? So we'll put some, I want to get a drone. There's a guy on Facebook that I found out does aerial pictures, and I'm going to see if I can ask him if whenever he's in our area doing his work, if he can just fly over our garden every now and then and send us pictures. That way I don't have to pay for his full services. Maybe I can just pay him for a picture, right? It'll be good to be able to track our progress from above. But yeah, we've got quite a bit going on. And I have some extra water barrels that, rain barrels. Well, they're going to be rain barrels when I'm done with them, that I went and got a couple years ago from the same people who I collected the pavers from, honestly. And So if any of you are super creative or want to be super creative, have I got some rain barrels for you? Because what I want to do is use 3 of them as giveaways. They're mine, so I'm going to keep one. I kind of think that that's fair, right? I'm going to keep one of my actual rain barrels. You all would not believe the amount of things that are going to be labeled in this garden, donated through the non-existent Nick Sam Foundation. Nick and Sam are my sons, so whatever I used their money for, it was their donation. So yeah, and if you all have things at home that you're not using anymore, like Nancy offered me bags of soil that she's not going to be using. So if you all have other things at home that, it might be a pot that's too big, you just don't want to manage it anymore, I will happily come and collect your excess of gardening materials and whatnot. And I'm going to be teaching vegetable gardening soon. So I'm going to set up a day when we're going to actually start propagating vegetable plants, and we have our potting shed out here. So we're not only going to be using this garden for a couple of hours on a Friday or a couple of hours on Wednesday, whatever day it is that we only work with the students in GYAC. We're going to be using this area for a whole heck of a lot more. We will be sweating this asset for sure. We are definitely going to be using this for a greater engagement. We've given away about 10 pots, 10 3-gallon pots with tomato plants in it. Those tomato plants usually had a basil and a zinnia in it along with them. 2 sisters that like to walk out there decided to get them both on the same day so that they can have competition about who is going to have the most tomatoes. I haven't seen them because I haven't been out there as much. So I can't wait to hear the update on that for sure. But we're doing good things. We're doing great things out at the garden in Gifford. Moving right along, this is a picture from what I did last Friday. That's Ken and Kate, Ag Extension agents from St. Lucie. So we went back out to Egret Marsh. I didn't have to go. I mean, I've done the tour already. I know what it's all about. But remember that we are starting back up our Egret Marsh plan again. So I went out there to do some reconnaissance photos, right, of the areas where I think will give us the best opportunity to do our initial plantings. Now, in my mind, the first time that I went out there, I knew what spots they would be, right? But I didn't take the pictures of it to share with you all. So I have a few students in my new class, and one of them happens to be a person who has a degree or 2 or 3 in veterinary science. And so she's okay with the animals, with the critters. And she has decided that it would be great to go help do the insect survey that I'd like to do, because we're not going out there to just plant plants and make the place cuter, right? We're increasing plant diversity to assess what a difference it is going to make in that area. And the difference that we are going to track is in what insects will now be out there. So we're going to do the insect survey to see, so if it's just this space that we're going to do, or we do 3 or 4 other spaces, we'll determine that in time. Then what we will end up saying is, originally, these are the plants that were there. And originally, these are the insects that were available in this space. All right. So there are things that we already know. We already know that the unintended consequence that was positive about turning this landfill space into this water treatment plant is that the algae scrubber pad created a place where birds decided was heaven sent. So we've got different types of birds living and nesting out there at different points in the year, right? So these are stilts, and this little mound right here, this little mound of algae, no less. They collected it and they created their nest out of that. They thought that the algae was nesting material. And to a bird, dang near anything will be nesting material, right? So they collect the algae, they put it in a dry spot, they lay their eggs in it, and they're also out there feeding on little things as they find them, right? So that was an unexpected positive consequence of creating this space. So what I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do by adding plants out here is increase insect diversity, not just increasing plant diversity, but increasing the types of insects that are out there, because there are one or two butterflies out there, but there isn't a huge population. And this is an area where we don't have a lot of human traffic, right? We don't have a lot of vehicular traffic. So this is a really good spot for us to create a pollinator incubator, right? So not just butterflies, but we don't have a lot of native bees out there either. But again, this used to be a landfill, right? So the soil is disturbed. It might even be a wee bit too toxic for those. But then there are other bees that are not native that we can attract into that space. So it'll work out very well, right? So, so do the insect survey so that we can have a baseline. And what I'd like to have us do for this insect survey is to go out there, be it the third Thursday of every month, right? Go out there, swing, well, I say us figuratively, surely I won't be out there, but cast your nets in the specific areas that we want to do our plantings in. I do not want to survey the whole of Egret Marsh. Yes, the knock-on effects are going to be very clear and evident, but just the spaces where we are going to be planting. And then we're going to plant in the fall, sustain our plants, establish them correctly, replenish a few of them, because sometimes it takes more than one planting for them to go ahead and establish. The plants that I selected them for all of the reasons that we teach Florida-friendly landscaping. I selected them for ease of establishment, okay? And we're not gonna be planting anything that is 3 gallons big, unless it's like the stoppers that we're getting from Nancy. We're not going to be planting huge plants that require that we go out there every single day for a month to water them in. We're not doing that. That's not sustainable, okay? We're going to be planting plants that we know will seed itself back out. We know they will pup out, that way we're not always out there. This is not your fall garden for entertaining if you're a snowbird and you don't know that pentals will stay, right? We're not doing that. We're gonna put gaillardias. We're gonna put what you all call porterweed. We're gonna use coreopsis, those types of plants that will drop their seeds and reproduce on their own and spread out on their own. Okay, those are the plants that we're going to be using in these spaces because they're super drought tolerant. They can survive just fine on their own if we put them in there correctly. So those are the things that we're going to be using out here. And then we'll go back next summer while I am this deep into paperwork, right? You all are going to go back out and say, okay, and keeping track, we'll say we planted 8 gaillardias into this X amount of square foot space. 2 of them failed and we replaced them. And in the summertime, at a comparative time, again, we'll go back out and we'll do a survey. these are the insects that we've encountered out here now that we did not encounter before. These are the insects that were here before, and they're still here. Okay. So that's going to require that you use the nets. And I'm not doing populations. Let me be clear. I'm not telling you all to go out there and count how many dragonflies you see. I just want to know that it's dragonfly, this species, because there were about 3 or 4 different types of dragonflies out there the other day when I was out there. All right, that's what I'm looking for. I am not looking for 8 dragonflies so we can extrapolate from that. We're not doing that. I just want to see how an increase in plant diversity is going to directly result in an increase in insect diversity. That's what we're doing. And the bonus is it more appealing on the eye? Does it look nicer? Okay, so we beautified this landscape, yes, but what else? There has to be an and. There has to be and therefore this other great thing happened as well. So if you would like to assist with the insect survey, please let me know. I have 3 of my new students lined up, but I need 3 of my veteran master gardeners as well in on this. You would go out there once a month or twice a month. I haven't figured it out yet, but I think once a month in the summer is plenty. Okay, net for insects. We're going to put default ants, fire ants. I don't want you all down on your hands and knees looking for ants. I just want to see the things that are flying about and the things that may or may not be crawling on these plants. We're not doing ants. And I think so far that there are very few butterflies out there. There's that one that looks like a little light blue, grayish color. I can't remember his name right now. I knew it the other day when I was out there though. I only saw that variety of butterfly out there, but they didn't have any fritillaries. They didn't have any long wings. They definitely didn't have any monarchs. So I'd like to get this going. I want to schedule the first insect survey for some point in June. So please let me know if you can and will volunteer for this. Okay, I got an answer back from the Better Impact people. You all can't sign up for your committees, which are your project groups yourself. It's the same thing like the old VMS where you're not allowed to sign up for your project groups. I do not anticipate that we are going to still have 60 people on our roster when I cull the roster in the middle of July. So after this next class graduates, it's going to be whoever is in, and I'm not going to be sending emails to 64 people. There's no reason for it. If you're no longer volunteering and whatnot, obviously you all are not the people who are no longer volunteering. But if the names have not been updated onto the new Better Impact system, I'm going to delete them. And if we have 30 people, if we have 20 people left, then those are going to be our workforce. It's just not sustainable, and I really don't have time. And it's also frustrating to Karen and Jim to be looking at this long list of people who never answer us back. So we're not doing that anymore. This year, and I know that there are a lot of legacy volunteers. Those of you who know some of them and think that they still want to volunteer, reach out and contact whoever that might happen to be and let them know that if they're still interested in this program, we need to know. We really do. And if they're not, it's fine. They won't be receiving emails from us shortly. I shouldn't think that I can't get 3 people out of 64 people to answer me for doing insect survey work, right? So I am not going to do that. I am going to Oh, yes. So Karen just commented in the chat, hours really start counting next year because we're opening up slower, right? But your hours still count this year, folks. They're going to be prorated. And blessedly, I'm so grateful for having Wendy Wilbur, who is a very understanding statewide coordinator, who said to those of us as county coordinators, it's okay to still have some restrictions and to prorate your volunteer hour requirements based on what you are doing. So even if the state says, well, we're fully open, and so half of the year is gone, so we're prorating it for half. If I don't fully open, I can say the proration is for quarter, and I'll still be okay. All right. And that's very, very beneficial. Okay. But you have to start logging your hours. And if you're not able to log your hours, if the system is still fatiguing you and it's just still annoying to you, that is fine. Karen and Jim are almost superhuman in the ways that they are great supports. They are wonderful help with the administration of this group. All right. And we are still talking more, and we're still having our meetings and whatnot, so that eventually even the meetings that I'm doing right now, that I'm only doing still because of COVID-19. We had a handoff plan that got severely interrupted by my 3-year-old and then the plague. But I will be a lot less hands-on, and they will be a lot more hands-on for you all, starting very soon, honestly. All right, so go look and enjoy the sunflowers at Gifford Garden if you have an opportunity. If you want your own container, if you want your own bed, if you want whatever it is that you want to do out there, that's your garden. That's one space that we have 100% control over. Go out there, stake your claim, and I'm going to roll with you. Okay. We will make it happen. Lena is currently the person that I have who makes the most sense to put in charge of that space. She's out there almost every single day. She does all sorts of things out there. She's super organized. And if you want a bed, we'll get it done. We have the means, if that's the opportunity that you're looking for. Egret Marsh, I need 3 people to help with the insect survey. I want to set it up so that I can teach you all how to do it and what it is I'm looking for before you go out there and do anything. And speaking of that, yes. So I was talking with a couple contacts, well, with one of my contacts, and then I spoke with another contact in Sebastian. So look out for a Sebastian project, hopefully before the end of this year as well, where we're going to be doing basically the same thing. Okay. Karen, as soon as I get feedback, Karen asks, when will this be occurring? As soon as I get feedback, I need 3 of the master gardeners who are already in the program to join with the 3 that I have from my new class. Yes, for this summer, definitely this summer. So I want the first scouting mission to be at least the last week of June, so that I can make a time and I can make a plan to teach you all. Hopefully by the 2nd week of June, I want to have that schedule for you all, so that I can teach you all insect surveying, and then you all can go forth and do. All right. So the spots that I'm looking at in Sebastian, I haven't narrowed it down yet, but as soon as I do narrow it down, then we are going to have basically the same kind of planting project that we're going to have going on at Egret Marsh. We'll just mirror our operations in both spaces. There will be basically one project. Okay. That way we're not only focused on this super south project, but we'll have something for those of you who are further up north, which I've been working on this. I've been making inroads in my contacts on this for a while now, because I know that a lot of our programming is south of, and we're not doing much in the north yet, but we're working on it. Okay, we are definitely working on it. So yes, folks, I hope that you all are doing well. And I hope that you all are preparing for summer. If you want any help or need any help with your endeavors, please let me know. Linda, Carol, I saw your email. Thank you so much. I know that it seemed like I am like the laziest human being on the face of the earth. I promise you I'm not lazy. I just know that there are other things that I really need to be spending my time on. And that's why I have a core of brilliant master gardeners to take up a lot of this slack. So I'm going to be sharing that along with the seeds when the time comes. So those of you who want to do the Egret Marsh project, and I haven't named the one in Sebastian yet because I don't know the name yet. But when we get that location sorted out, then we'll have that location sorted out. But the data set and the information gathering and the process is going to be the same. And that's important for me, because then I'm not recreating my wheel, which means I'm not going to be spinning my wheels on what it is that I'm doing. I think that is just about it. Oh, no. My advisory committee. I have not been able to really do too much with my advisory committee. So anybody in this group who has so I need some people on my advisory committee. So if any of you live in a homeowners association with really good restrictions, please volunteer to be on my advisory committee, because I need to have someone who lives in one of those communities as a representative, so that I can figure out what is it that I need to be teaching, so that I can get people from those spaces to come and access my programming. So if you live in an HOA, I need you to join my, or volunteer to be on my advisory committee. That would be great, because HOA problems are very different from people, from residential clients who don't have any restrictions, right? You all need to learn how to work within your restrictions, and me, I'm out here doing anything I feel like. Okay, so that's one. I also need somebody who may be involved with service groups. So if you all are working with a service group that may or may not do like community outreach and different things like that in underserved areas, I would like for you to volunteer to be on my advisory committee. Now, I do have a couple of people who are professionals in the industry and whatnot, and I will admit to you all that it's been worse than pulling teeth getting people's schedules organized and everything. So I heard during the symposium a few weeks ago, and it was something that I'd written down, that not even getting them together virtually was going to work, because again, scheduling. So what I'm going to do is, you can be on my advisory committee unscheduled. I'm going to send out a 5-minute survey. And then what I learned from that 5-minute survey, I'll just keep on sending you all, hey, what's your input on this? Click, click, click. That's it. And if you have conversation for me, then you just send me an email to give me a better, to give me a better understanding of your feedback. That's how I'm doing my advisory committee for right now, because there are many of us who are still gainfully employed and just can't show up. And of course, we've been having a plague. but I really need to have I need to have a couple of needs assessments sorted out so that when I submit my paperwork next year, they don't look at me and say, well, where's your needs assessment? No tenure for you. Because I really, really want to have permanent status and be able to stay here. And then I'm also going to be sending out a needs assessment to you all as volunteers, but I'm going to do that after we slim down what my real number is so that I can report on my actual numbers of volunteers. Last year when I did that, the feedback was great, actually, and I've implemented a few of the things that I could implement, and then there were things that I can't do anything about it. There was just no way. But I still have it listed. So I'll be revamping that again this year to get feedback from you all and to find out what are the things that I should be doing. What are the things that you all want to be teaching? What do you think we should be doing as part of our program? So yeah, anyway, it's been a really, really long meeting. Wow, I really managed to talk to you all for the whole hour. Not that I'm not chatty, surely I'm chatty, right? But I really thought I didn't have that much to tell you all, but I guess I did. So please volunteer for insect surveying and my advisory board. And then be prepared for at some point in July to give me feedback on the Master Gardener program again. These are all things that are important because without this information, I'm flying blind. Okay. It was okay for me to fly blind the first 2 years because, okay, you're getting your feet wet. Maybe I drowned a little bit my second year, but by the time that I'm applying for them to say to me, you're doing this job properly and we think you're doing a great job, you should be able to stay on here indefinitely, I should have a clearer picture of what, how, with whom, when I'm doing things. And so I have some better questions to ask you all this year than I had the previous time that I sent out my survey. So your feedback is important. And without it, you have no basis to be calling me up and saying, I think you suck, lady. You didn't give me an answer when I asked you questions. Don't call me now. Okay. So that is that. I hope that all of you have a wonderful rest of the day and the rest of the afternoon. I'm going to sit here and finish doing my summer gardening blog post. Thanks to all of you who keep on sharing our things on Facebook. I am very lax in that, but what helps me is the fact that Karen Batland shares them all the time. So when I see that she shared something new, I go to our Facebook page and I hit share. Because it doesn't notify me that anyone posts anything. It does notify me when someone shares it. So thank you, Karen. You are the best at doing that and making it happen. And so the rest of you, yes, please like and follow our Facebook page and share our content, because I get a lot of points for having our content shared. Angelica, I saw some of your latest pictures and I'm going to be stealing them and sharing them like I always do. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate that. You are an excellent photographer. And I'm also looking at a few pictures from a couple of other people from a few groups that I'm in. And so I get their permission to share their pictures as well. And it really, really works out well because it's positive reinforcement, and it is actual visual evidence that reminds us of why we're saying to people, fertilize appropriately, right? We're not saying don't fertilize at all or whatever. We say fertilize appropriately because these are areas that we want to keep the beauty of. So yeah, folks, I hope that you all have a great rest of the day and a wonderful afternoon. As soon as this video finishes loading, I'm going to cut off one end and the other, and then I'm going to upload it. I can't find my folder where the other one came in, and our IT guy can't find it either. So I'm not crazy. But if I can find the one from last week, I'll upload to this afternoon. You all stay safe. Have a great rest of the day. I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. As you all saw in our last couple of messages to you all, we will be getting together in person in August. So, yay. It's going to be great. You all have a great rest of the day. Thank you for showing up. I really appreciate this a whole heck of a lot. Have a wonderful day.